Hey, what's up, you guys? And welcome back to the Bate Escape. This is episode 6, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, that's about right. How's everyone doing? How's your week been? How's everyone holding up? I think in LA, I believe we're back in lockdown. I'm not too sure, but I know that stuff is closing down. Again, my barber got shut down again, which sucks, but I'll be seeing her regardless. I'm moving places. That's exciting news for me. Yeah, I'm moving in with a friend into a new space. So I apologize if you hear like a weird echo in this episode. I moved a lot of my stuff out, so it's kind of an empty room right now. It's going to be a really good change. It'll be like a new beginning kind of thing, so I can work on like other projects. It's really exciting for me. How has your week been? Talk to me. You know where to find me. I am active on Twitter and I'm also active on Snapchat. I had to think about that for a minute. And I just started an Instagram too. So yeah, follow that. That's just brand new. I'm not too sure how that's going to go, but I have it if you want to follow my daily masturbation Instagram posts. I mean, posting the stuff that hopefully won't get taken down. Because Instagram is weird that way, right? I don't know. I'm also on Bait World. You can find me there, BC Bator. Looking at my profile right now, everyone looks like they're doing it really well. Just see a bunch of like cool looking dicks. So they're cool looking people too. I always love on Bait World when people like show a face, like they show like an actual profile picture of themselves. It's nice. It's like personable rather than seeing some like cockshot. I mean, those are nice too, but it's nice when you're able to see someone's face. Makes it more homey, I guess. I don't know. What are we talking about today? We are talking about how being a baiter can lead you to amazing sex adventures. And this conversation comes from a conversation I had with a brother on Snapchat. If you don't follow me on Snapchat, you're really missing out. It's just a fun way to like show off and like actually talk to you guys. It's like I can talk to you on a one-on-one basis. Like it's not some like it's not a public forum like Twitter because my Snapchat's private. Shh. Don't tell Snapchat. I'm like waiting for someone to throw the rat. It's gonna happen any day. I'm not gonna manifest that. I'm gonna be like, you guys are good. You guys are holding me down. Yeah, but check that out. Yeah, so I was talking to this brother and he sent me a picture of himself in I don't even know what you call it, like a penis lock. You know, the ones that go around your testicles and then your penis and then it locks. So like you're unable to have an erection. And he showed it to me and I was like, I've always been, well, not always, but like lately, I've been fascinated with this lock mechanism because, okay, some context for you. So it took me a really long time to understand like the power my penis holds. Like it's the epic center of my pleasure. And for such a long time, I thought it was just kind of like so many men, I thought it was just like a hobby and not necessarily a sex. So I didn't really, yes, I paid attention to it, but I never really held my penis in like high regard as some other men do, which is amazing. It's what I'm learning to do now. But I never really understood the appeal of a penis lock. And so I started engaging with this guy, this brother. And I said, okay, what does it do for you? And he said something along the lines of, oh, it just makes me feel like a sub bitch bottom. And I was like, okay. And I was like, since you can't get an erection, you know, because like your penis is supposed to be like the source of your pleasure, like where does your pleasure come from? And he said I think he said either my butt or my mouth. One or the other or both. I'm pretty sure it was both. And I thought, okay, well, that's interesting. I was like, well, how long do you keep this lock on? And he was like, well, however long my husband wants me to keep it on. Like, essentially, his husband controls the amount of time he has this lock on his penis. And I was like, okay, all right. Like, I was just like, I was trying to get there with him, right? I was trying to understand what the appeal was. And it was like, okay, I don't know if I could ever do, I don't know if I could ever do that to my penis, since like I'm proud of my penis. Like I want it to be free. I don't I don't want it to be locked up. That's not pleasurable for me. But I was curious. I was really curious to know what he got out of it. And I was trying to understand like his head or where he was at, like what is this pleasure essentially? Because like I said, like I consider myself like 98, well, not 98, but like 95% top. So like I don't really find pleasure in my prostate. I mean, when I do, it's great, but it's not the first pleasure that I seek. And it just got me thinking like baiters are cool in that we're able to engage in other sexes other than penetrative sex. Like for me, like masturbation is great. Yes, it will always be my first and foremost mode of pleasure. But sometimes it's really fun to change it up. And it's really fun to explore other sex acts. And I mean, if you're just constantly fucking, then that's cool too. Like that's your thing. But I think, as for me as like a baiter, like I'm much more inclined to be receptive to other people's form of sex. So like this guy with the lock, like I could understand that. I could see it. I could be like, yeah, that makes sense. Like you want to be controlled somehow in some way. And I think it's the control that really turns you on. Um, and I've had other encounters too. Like I recently like had an encounter with someone that really enjoyed feet, right? And that was really fun because all they did was like get off on my feet and they just masturbated the whole time. So like I don't know, like I feel like baiters are much more inclined to really receive things that are not typically considered by other men. Um, yeah, so, but also too, that like transfers over into like the kind of porn that I watch, and I think it's cool. Like I think I think people as baiters, like if you haven't really um like browsed around or like you sexually explored with other people, it's a really great opportunity to do so. Like you can always like my thing is like okay, since I'm not engaging in penetrative sex, like how can we? It's always my goal, I guess, to like spice things up, right? Because you want to like you want to keep it sexy for yourself, if anything. I think it comes with age too. Like, you've been in the game for a while, and so you're just like, okay, well, this is like repetitive. Like, how can I make this really cool and sexy? So you're able to like meet other people and engage in what they think is really hot. Yeah, like role play is cool. Like I've done tons of role play on like Mic and Skype. What else have I found that's really cool? Mm. Like, I mean, there's so many other things you could do, like rimming. There's like oral. Um, I mean, there's like torture play if you like to get tied up and stuff. I've never really tried it. I'm not too sure if I could be into it. I may need some like practice. Yeah, I would probably need like a mentor or someone to teach me how to read it. But that's another thing too. Like you could have like this sex mentor, like you could have like a sir or a daddy that can like engage with you and teach you these things. And I think that's what's really fascinating about being a baiter. Like I've had numerous conversations with different baiters, and so it's like, yeah, like I like certain things. Like I like I like body hair, and that's a thing that'll turn them on. Or like people that have like underwear fetishes. Like I follow a lot of people on Twitter that like I follow this like couple that like wear thongs when they're like having sex, and that's like their thing. Like they wear like thongs and like bodysuits and like and shit. And I'm just like, yeah, that's cool. That's hot. Um, and if I see that, and if I'm like presented to that to me in like real life, like I'm not afraid to like engage, which is cool. Again, but having that kind of like mentality, to me, that's considered like brotherhood mentality. And when you engage in brotherhood mentality, it really just means that you are meeting that person halfway, right? And you're not shaming and you're not judging on whatever turns them on. So as Bader men, I feel like we're able to really sympathize. That's a really good word, because I feel like a lot of like Baders eh, like no one really gets us at first. Like no one really understands what we're about, and you kind of have to explain those things. And somewhere along the line, some dude somewhere is gonna not be into it, and it's gonna like totally talk shit on what your sex is. That's uncool. I'm sorry if that ever happened to you. But you begin to honor. You begin to honor more your brothers in that sense, because you don't want them to feel some type of way, right? So like I know I've encountered or I've been in situations with other beta bros, um, and like they'll introduce a sex act that I might not necessarily be into or don't really have much experience with. But to me, I've just learned that I should really create always a safe, positive space for people to be their authentic selves. And whenever I've done that, I've really had a really great time, which technically means like there's no sex shame, there's no body shame, there's only positive feedback and acceptance, which I've strongly feel in the Bay community. And it's, and it runs the gamut from all types of men, young, old, skinny, thin, big, muscular, hairy, non-hairy, smooth. So our bait community can encompass so many different types of men. And I feel like in the time that I've really engaged in our community, I've had nothing but positive experiences. But I think also too, like obviously it transcends. For me, it does, because if I'm able to be really mindful and open about other people's sexual practices, it only makes me that much more open to other experiences in my life, like different ideas, like different ways of living. Even that I've met like beta men who like are married with children and straight, and they just love masturbating with other men. And then I've dated with like gay men who are only into masturbation, and so I'm able to really fill my life with frequent, fun sexual adventures that keeps things sexy, because ultimately I feel like curiosity only enhances who you are as a sexual being. Yeah, I feel that's true for me, especially now as I've gotten older. it, I think one of the really great things about being a man is that you never really lose your sex drive. Like I've dated with like older men. I think the oldest man I've ever dated with or had a sexual encounter with was like probably in his early 60s. And he was alive and kicking. Let me tell you, he had no problem. And that's amazing. Like I enjoy like hooking up with like older men, because it's like a sign of respect for me. Like you're kind of like hanging out with this like older wise person, and they can like teach you about the power of your penis, because they've like been in the game way longer than I have. If you're young and you've never really engaged with someone of a certain age, I highly suggest you do that. Like find yourself a really chill, cool, older daddy type and just have a ball. um I mean, obviously find someone that's gonna like not like ridicule you and like not sex shame you. But and I feel like most older men don't. In the experiences that I've had, like all the older men that I've been with have been nothing but receptive to the kind of sex that I have. Um, and I might add, I've learned a few things. I picked up a couple of skills here and there. um, and it's been fun. And that would have never happened to me 10 years ago. No way. I think in my early 20s, I was just so hyper focused on this one thing that everyone was telling me that I was supposed to have to be like a normal functioning gay man. Um, and so I was just like in one track mode, and I didn't entertain these other really fantastic sex acts. Like I just thought they were just so like abnormal and freaky and not who I am at all. Um, and back then I had no clue about what sex was at all. Like it was just like this again, like this naive, like young 20-year-old man kind of lost in some fucking bullshit that didn't even matter. But I think the turning point for me was when I was living in New York. I lived in New York a couple of years. And New York was fun for me. Maybe I'll say that for a future episode. But New York was kind of like the introduction to my solo sexuality, which I didn't know was me at the time. Had no clue. It was just really just like this a beautiful like experimental phase of my life. I had just graduated school. Like I sold my car, I took off to New York, and I was like going to live there and be like some amazing, lucrative, fantastic like pop artist. But plans change, and that's cool too. um, you know, maybe I think plans change and they turn to something different, which can be equally as amazing. But yeah, my start in my soul actually happened there, and it actually didn't happen with the younger man. It actually happened. I think he was younger than me by a couple, or maybe my age, maybe a couple of years younger. But it really started with this young gentleman, and I really wish I'd kept in contact with him. I may have his number somewhere, but I'd really love to like reach out and just like really thank him for like showing me like what being a baiter was, and he was kind of like the first person to see in me um, Bator, when I didn't even know that of myself. And I think that's a really wonderful part about our brotherhood. Like I've met so many men, um, because I have it listed like on my Hinge and my Tinder and like all that stuff where I identify as homosexual. And since sometimes I'll just get hit up because men are really curious about what that is because, maybe they Google it and it kind of rings true for them. Um, I've had a couple of guys hit me up and just like, hey, like I know this is odd or weird, um, I really swiped on you because I really I'm curious to know what this identity is. Like you have it proudly stated in your profile. Like what is it? Um, and that's always fun because you're like passing down this knowledge of like who they are, what they could be. Um, and without a doubt, like the men that I talk to that are curious about are most definitely baiters. They just don't know it themselves. And so I always point them to Bait World and um point them to the podcast, of course, and then let them decide what works for them. Um, it's really fun that way. Also, too, I think being a baiter allows you to explore other solo sex acts. So I find now, which had never done before, was to like actually visit sex stores and like actually buy like sex toys for myself. Like it's wild how like right now this phase in my life is like teaching me so much about self-love, and I think there was a really long time in my life where I just didn't think my body was beautiful enough to be adorned. And to me, essentially what we're doing when we put on like metal cock rings and ball stretchers and like we get piercings on our genitals, like what we're saying to ourselves is that our genitals are beautiful enough to be adorned. Like we're sexy enough to like accessorize ourselves to turn each other on and turn yourself on. Um, And I was not doing that in my early 20s, all through my 20s, to be honest. I think I probably purchased my first cock ring when I was like 30 years old. I came really late to the game with like accessories and stuff. And now it's a blast. Like I'm like accumulating like this little bin of like sex toys, which is really fun for me. And I just bought a new one today, so testing that out and stuff. So I think betas are really fun that way. Like we're kind of like in it to win it, in that we're just like, yeah, like I'm not really into that, but if you are, like, I'm down. Let's just do this and like see how fun this is. Like we're just like adventurous that way. So that's one of the many things of why I'm so proud to be like a solo sexual. Like it allows me to explore these different avenues and really just like start to let go of all this like sex and like sex shame that I had of myself. That's another thing too that can really help being like a solo sexual. Like you begin to practice, like what you're doing is you're changing the narrative of your mind of masturbation is a dirty secret to masturbation is a proud, valid form of sex. Um, and it really is. I mean, I don't need to pull up the studies to let you know that like masturbation is safe sex. You can't contract any STDs or HIV, and you only self pleasure. So like means you're self loving, and it's like a really positive way to create um, a sexual identity that maybe you never really knew you had. So it's fun to explore. I mean, I really, I'm a huge advocate of that. Huge advocate. And I think essentially at the end of the day, that's all I really just want. I want men of all colors, like of all ages, of all shapes, to really just begin to acknowledge themselves like what they're doing isn't harming anyone. In fact, it's doing the opposite. It's allowing yourself to seek pleasure in a way that maybe you're not interested in seeking in other ways. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, if you're not hurting anyone, if you're not putting yourself or other people in danger, then go for it. Like, just have a blast with yourself. Like, go all out. Like, you know, try new things with your buddies, try new things with yourself. Like, that's kind of the adventures of being a solo sexual. Hence, kind of where I'm at in my life. And I think it's cool. I think it builds character. Like you're able to have like sex positive conversations with your friends. Um, I know I do all the time, and people, I don't know, people like it. I guess it's part of the reasons why I'm really interested in becoming a certified sex coach, because I think to me, like sex is such a powerful catalyst to change your life in so many different ways. I've talked about this before. Like when you start self-loving yourself, you enhance your worthiness of who you are. And so that changes everything. Like you feel worthy in other areas of your life and family, friends, job, relationships, your pets. You just become like a more happy person because you're just like, oh, like I'm getting all the self-love and I just want it shared to everybody else. So like everyone can have as much as they want because I'm always like there's like a never-ending source, right? That's how I think of it. And it's made me happy. I feel like I'm the happiest I've been in my life right now. I actually mentioned to my friend last week. Yeah, last week sometime. I was just like, hey, like, can I like tell you something? And she's like, yeah, what's going on? And I was like, in the future, like, don't ever ask me like who I'm dating or like what's the dating scene like or if there's any hot guys that I'm like talking to, because I think all next year I just want to love myself. Like I want to become my own lover. And I don't want to have to like be bothered with ideas of like trying to please someone else. Like I really just need to focus on myself. So anytime you're gonna ask me if I'm dating someone, I'm always gonna just say I'm dating myself. And it was like I feel like it's such a strong commitment and it's taken a lot of anxiety off me. I feel lighter. somehow, because now I'm just like living for me. I'm not living to like, or I'm not, living for anybody else. I'm not dressing up to attract a mate. I'm not grooming myself to attract a male. Like, it's all for me. Like, if I dress up, it's because I want to feel good. If I groom myself, it's because I want to feel sexy about myself. Yeah. You guys should really read Real Men Masturbate by TB Timothy, or TM Timothy. Um, it's a really good book, and that's where I got the idea. Like, in the book, he talks about essentially, like, he asks the questions, am I masturbating too much? And he goes on to like say that he did research and like he didn't really find what he was looking for, and then ultimately he made the decision like, no, I'm not masturbating too much. It's like perfect, and he kind of set out this mission to become his own lover essentially. And in the book, he talks about like, yeah, like I started watching what I ate and I lost weight and I worked out because I wanted to turn myself on, and I bought like toys because I wanted to play, and I taught myself how to give myself multiple orgasms. And I'm kind of like, that's so inspiring to me, because what you're really doing again is just like owning yourself, like owning your space, like really taking control of your life and saying like, hey, I'm worth all these really great things, and I'm not going to wait for some external entity to give that to me. Like, I'm just gonna fucking give it to myself, which I should have been doing all these years, but whatever. Better late than never. Yeah, it's good. I think it's good. I think all men should do that. Really, like, I just encourage, like, for me, it's always just like it comes from a positive, good place. Like, to the idea to just like have the courage to just like really try something new. Like, even if it doesn't fit. Like, maybe we came here thinking you might be a baiter, and then listening to all this shit, you're just like, oh wait, actually that's not me. That's cool too. you know? But at least you're like here listening to like my my expression of sex. Well, that's cool. Like, you have like this open mind, and you're just like, yeah, like I want to see what different perspectives are. And that could only I feel like that could only lead to you being a more well-rounded individual. Because sex is cool. Sex is important. Everyone loves sex. It's fun. And I think baiters have a lot of fun. I think we have the most fun because we're so exploratory. Yeah. And it's always fun to explore with a buddy too. Like, when you like share the same kind of like turn-ons and shit, and you're just like kind of talking and jiving about it. That's so hot. You should really try that. Yeah. Yeah, but that was on my mind. I thought it was a really fun topic. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that whole penis cage thing. Maybe, but it really have to be with someone I trust. Like, I just can't give this key to like a total stranger, because then I'd be annoyed. I'd be like, I don't even know who the fuck you are, bro, but give me that shit back. um, I don't know. I feel like I would need to like have someone close to me to be like, I have this key, and it's attached to my dick, and I'm giving you a lot of control. Be fucking honored. I don't know. Could be hot. If any of you bros have tried that or are into that, like, if you think that's really sexy, hit me up like on Twitter and like my social media. I want to talk more about you. I want to continue this conversation because I do find it fascinating. All right. I think that's it for this episode. Thanks so much for joining. I hope you have a really great week to come. Again, I'm really excited to like move out to a new space. So by the time the next podcast comes around, I'll be in a brand new space and new energy and new vibes and new stuff to talk about. And that'll be really exciting. So again, thanks again for all your support. You can find me on my social media channels. Just Google Beastly Bader. I'm sure something will pop up. And don't forget to self-love yourself every day. All right, dudes. Check you later.